Leaving Miss Burnage is a direct sequel to Visiting Miss Burnage. It literally picks up right after where the last story left off. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil what happens in the last one because, again, I want everybody to experience that one. It has such a great shock factor, and if I spoil it here, well, it's no longer a shock factor now, is it? Michael, who's the main character from the last one, runs away from Miss Burnage's house and calls the sheriff, who happens to be a close family friend, named Alex Wallace, to tell him what he discovered, and in hopes to get Miss Burnage arrested. Sheriff Wallace agrees to investigate the situation. Michael gives him some photos that he took of the house. Sheriff Wallace goes to the house and emails Michael saying that the photos didn't match, but that he would basically keep tabs on the house, that him and some other officers would keep the place surrounded, making sure Miss Burnage or anyone else can't get out or can't get in. Basically, they're going to try and keep her from escaping without causing too much of a scene. This really starts to bug Michael psychologically, and it gets to the point where he can't even sleep. And honestly, I don't blame him. If I made the discovery that he made, I don't think I'd be able to sleep knowing the person is still loose. His dog starts barking, and when he looks out the window, it shocks him. He sees what he believes to be Mr. and Mrs. Burnage, along with a third figure. They run off into the woods, and this is where the tension in the story really starts to build up, and this story gets really good. It keeps you on the edge of your seat at this point, and it constantly makes you second guess what's going to happen. Michael goes to make a break for it and try to get away, but he's stopped by Sheriff Wallace, who is also with Mr. and Mrs. Burnage. So he was right. Mr. and Mrs. Burnage had somehow gotten out, and they made it to his house. If I had to guess, I'd say Sheriff Wallace obviously drove them. We don't know why. It's very open. And as much as I love open endings to creepypastas, this is one that I kind of felt was a little bit lackluster. I do think that the reader's interpretation can be often scarier than what anyone can write. But for something like this, I would have liked something. That's really the only problem I have. It ends on a bit of a cliffhanger. We don't know what happens to Michael that night. It's obvious that he doesn't stay in jail for all that long because this whole entire time he's been posting on some kind of blog or something online. And he says he'll better explain it at another time. So again, it's a cliffhanger. That's really the only problem, unless the writer is going to write another one, which could be. After all, this is a sequel to Visiting Miss Burnage, so anything is possible. I think this is a very well-written creepypasta. I might not like it as much as Visiting altogether, but there is one crucial element to the story that I do prefer, and that's the tension. The tension in this story, especially towards the end, is very breathtaking, and it's not like any other story I've ever come across. I cannot recommend this one enough, but I would definitely recommend listening to or reading Visiting Miss Burnage first. Not because it's, well, the first story, but because the ending is so shocking and disturbing that you'll know what's going on, because it's very vague as to what happened. So again, listen to or read Visiting Miss Burnage first, then jump to this one.